in child protective services, and they won't give them back to their loving families because they're making money.
This is a legal system that you're going into. And if you don't know the rules, you will be chewed up and spit out.
If I could say anything to a mother who just got their children detained, you're in a crisis. Yeah. Life feels like it's over. The most important thing is regaining custody of your children.
The child welfare system at its core is designed to protect children who need protection. Okay, and that's key, is who need protection.
So social workers, out of fear, will remove more children rather than only remove those children that truly need to be removed.
It's okay. It's okay.
This isn't someone stole your car. Someone broke into your house. This is someone took your child, your flesh and blood.
It doesn't say on this order that it was not proven. It says untrue. True. I immediately knew that, okay, well, this ain't over.
Were there signs there? Were there no signs? Did I miss them? Did I catch them? At this point, I honestly don't know.
Families only get a finite amount of time to reunify.
I came into this field to help families, not destroy them.
The difference between the criminal system and the child welfare system is substantial. You have more rights as a criminal than you do as a parent.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Davis. My name is Georgette Truen. I am the host for Fight CPS We'll Talk with Ms. G, and I have attorney Vincent Davis with us today. And I also work for attorney Vincent Davis. Hi, Mr. Davis. Can you hear us, sir?
Yes.
Okay. So there was a couple of questions about somebody that has your book, and on page 18 of your book, sir, you mentioned that the initial investigation from a social worker, for example, if it is a criminal, like if the police was involved and, for example, driving under the influence or what have you, the parent was pulled over, you said in your book, during the process, the social worker is supposed to advise you of your rights to speak to an attorney. But then you go on writing, but this is rarely done, and it seems there is no adequate remedy for this failure. Somebody asked me about this question a couple of days ago, and I told them I was going to address it to you in the show today.
So what's the question?
The question is, if it's supposed to be done, why aren't they doing it?
They don't share the whys with me. I only know that they're not doing it because people tell me.
Okay, is it a law? Is it law? Is it the law?
Yes.
So if it is the law, aren't they supposed to do it if it's the law?
Yes, but in every aspect of life, there are laws that you see people don't follow.
Can they be held accountable for that?
Yes, you can sue them.
Perfect. So I hope everybody heard. Okay, so you can sue them if they don't follow that part of the law. Okay, got it. Now, when it comes to jurisdictional hearing, what's your advice to people that are going through a jurisdictional hearing right now in LA County?
What do you mean? What's my advice?
What's your advice to them as what really happens in a jurisdictional hearing? What can they expect? Because oftentimes people say that they're getting their kids back that day. That's what the social worker says.
Okay. You know, the longer I do this and the more people that I talk to, I noticed something, with people, and even the question you just asked.
Mm-hmm.
The question you just asked is a very simple, straightforward question. The answer is not simple and not straightforward, not at all, because there's probably 10,000 different things that can happen at a jurisdictional hearing. It depends on the type of case. It depends on the attorneys on the case. It depends on the prosecutor on the case. It depends on the judge. It depends on who the social worker is. And one of the things that I realized, a couple of years ago is, it's experience that really helps an attorney represent a parent. Because 10,000 different things can go, and if you don't have that experience, you're just going to think, oh, this is the way it should be. Because the question you just asked me was, what's supposed to happen? Well, I don't have time to tell you 10,000 different things. Generally speaking, the court is supposed to have a trial to determine whether the allegations against you are true or false, or partly true or partly false. And then, if true or partly true, you go to the dispositional hearing. But the jurisdictional is a true trial to determine whether things are true or not. For example, let's say that a social worker files a petition that says you're crazy. You have mental and emotional problems to keep you from parenting your child. Well, at that jurisdictional hearing, they have to prove that. Up until that time, the judge assumed what the social worker is saying is true as far as detaining your child. But after that, and at the jurisdictional hearing, the social worker has to step up to the plate and prove that that's actually true. I was recently involved in a case where they were saying that about my client. And I told them, before the trial, I said, how are you going to prove this? You don't have any expert testimony. Well, the social worker is going to get on the stand and say it. And I said, the social worker? What does she have? A Bachelor of Science degree in, English? How is she going to prove, when she's never evaluated my client, that my client's, mentally or emotionally impaired? Good luck with that. But what happens a lot of times is parents and their attorneys, for whatever reason, just agree to that language being true. And I tell people all the time, you shouldn't just throw away your rights and your rights to a trial at the jurisdictional hearing, no matter what. Because a lot of these things social workers say, they're not going to be able to prove. They're just making allegations against you. So, when you say what happens, a trial happens. And let me tell you something. Let me tell you what a trial is and what it's not. A trial is when people put on live witnesses on the stand, and they testify under oath, under direct examination, under cross-examination by the other attorneys, and perhaps even the judge. And people introduce documentary evidence, pictures, reports, into evidence. Okay? That's a trial. Let me tell you what a trial is not. There is no trial if you go to court, no witnesses are called, and only the attorneys argue. That's not a trial. All right? By definition, you're going to lose because the only evidence against you, the only evidence in the case that has been submitted is the social worker's report. So even though your attorney makes a great legal argument, you're probably not going to win. Now, have I ever seen a parent win in a case without witnesses and arguing the report? Yes. I could count them on one hand. And I've been a lawyer for 35 years. I think I've been doing this probably 32 years. So in 32 years, in the thousands of cases I've been involved with, I've probably seen less than 5 times. You know that how low a percentage that is? So if you're going
Very
to
low, very, very low percentage.
right. So if you go to court and you plan on having a trial at any stage of the CPS process, at any stage of the juvenile dependency process, you better have witnesses. You and your lawyer better have subpoenaed witnesses and subpoenaed documents that are admissible, right? And bring the witnesses that are necessary to get that information admitted into evidence. Otherwise, if you lose, don't be surprised.
But what if the attorney, the court defender or pretender tells you, ask for the therapist, psychiatrist, they subpoenaed them to come to testify, especially when the report favors you as a parent. And then all of a sudden during that day, there is no witnesses. They were never notified. They were never subpoenaed. And the mother calls them and they said they've never been subpoenaed. They didn't even know that the trial was that day. So then what do you do after that?
Well, it's not what you do after, okay? It's what you should have done before, okay? After it's too late, you're SOL, shit out of luck. After is ridiculous.
Yeah,
it's
but
done.
why wouldn't they do that? Why would they tell the parent that we're gonna subpoena these people, and then all of a sudden that day of the trial, it's only the two attorneys? I mean, it's only the attorneys arguing with each other.
Okay, Georgia, here's the thing. Frequently you ask me questions about what other people do and other people think and what other people say. They don't share that with me.
I understand that, but
I don't know the answer to that question.
okay.
Was it a strategy concern? I don't know. Did they forget? I don't know. Were they too lazy to do it? I don't know.
No, but I think it is a strategy for the parent to make sure that the parent loses. Basically, that's what it is.
I don't know a lot of attorneys, private or court appointed, that want their client to lose. Okay, and I've done thousands of cases. Now, do sometimes parents, attorneys not do what they were supposed to do? Maybe. You see, here's the thing, Georgette. You've had one case in juvenile dependency court. Over the years, I've been involved in thousands, literally. So let's not skew it to your one example.
Right, but now, it's not just one example. It's several people tell me the same thing.
Here's the problem. What people tell you is sometimes accurate. It's sometimes not accurate. I talked to someone this morning who told me a very interesting story. And then when I started asking questions, the story changed. Sometimes, when we want to hear, we want to see, we want to tell the story the way we want to tell it, not how it actually occurred. And, that's the problem I have with a lot of people I talk to. When you talk to me, everything that we talk about is confidential. Everything by law. Be honest with me. Don't tell me some BS that you think I want to hear. If you tell me, one of the things that made me kind of well known earlier in my career was you could go to Davis with the really hard cases. He might be able to win. Tell me the truth. Tell me the truth. Yeah, I did meth that one time and I tested positive. Okay, I can deal with that. That doesn't mean you're going to be a loser in the case, but tell me up front.
Sometimes they're afraid or they're scared.
I know, but look, you're calling me up and talking to me. Many times it's a free consultation. And then you tell me ABC, you hire me, and I tell you, oh, based upon what you told me, I think we can win this case. Then you hire me, and then I look into the case and it's not ABC, it's XYZ, right?
Yeah.
And then I got to do something different. I might still be able to win the case, but shit, things are going to be different. So, when you talk to any attorney about representing you in any case, especially a CPS case, be honest with them.
Yep.
Tell them all the good, the bad, and the ugly. They need to know. A lot of people, one time this happened actually a few weeks ago. Guy tells me, we get into it, we talk, and we really, we form a pretty good relationship over the phone. And I'm questioning him. And he finally breaks down and he tells me, well, Mr. Davis, it is a little bit true. The allegations the social worker said, not all, but a little bit. And I said, well, why didn't you tell me that to begin with? We've been on the phone 90 minutes going down this lane, and we should be going down this lane. He says, well, I was embarrassed, and because I thought it would make the case harder, you would charge me more.
Wow. But that's usually what happens. We have to fix everything that the damage that happened on the case to begin with.
Right. I was contemplating telling people when we talk, hey, tell me all the bad things about the case first. Let's get that out on the table. Let's really talk about it. Right. Now, look, in my opinion, do social workers ever exaggerate, not tell the truth? Yeah. I've seen it. I've seen it firsthand.
Yeah.
And I would venture to say that most attorneys who practice in this area know that happens.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the other side of the coin. Do social workers ever tell the truth?
No.
Okay. They do. They pick and choose the truth that they want to tell. So when I say to you, do they ever tell the truth? The answer is yes. They tell the truth that they want to tell, and hope that nobody figures it out, or hope that nobody finds out the real truth, the complete truth, or hope, your attorney is just not going to do anything. There is a case that came to our office, and you're very familiar with this case. The client didn't hire us because the social worker told the client, oh, don't hire Davis, right? Don't hire Davis. You don't need him.
Mm-hmm.
As the case went on, I told her exactly what was going to happen, because this happens all too frequently for me, being in the game, over 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
They convinced this lady to plead no contact and to take a deal where she doesn't have a chance to get her children for 6 months.
Yeah.
And I'm telling her, let's have a trial and try to get your kids back within the first 30 to 60 days. Right?
Right.
So, social worker is giving the client her opinion. I'm giving the client my opinion. Client chose to believe the social worker, who actually promised to give her kids back at the end of 60 days,
Yep.
as we know. And of course, at the 60-day date at the court hearing, my supervisor said, blah, 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 I can't give you your kids back. And client's like, what?
Mm-hmm.
I should have hired Davis.
Mm-hmm.
Now she calls me back and says, okay, they lied to me.
Yep.
Like, really?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't I tell you that probably might happen?
Yep.
Well, can you come back? Can you come in and get my kids back? Well, I can. It's just going to take, I'm going to have to move a mountain, because so many things have happened already.
Yep.
You've agreed to so many things. You pled no contest to so many things. You admitted certain things I told you not to admit. that you swore to me weren't true. Why did you do that? Well, the social worker said if I did that, she'd give me my kids back in 60 days. And now, where are you? You're at the 60-day date, no kids. You know, and I think people have an innate belief that their government is not going to lie to them. Now, I don't know where you fall on the political spectrum, but government officials on both sides say things that aren't true. And if you think that that's happening at a national level, what do you think's happening at a county level? They know that you don't have the knowledge or experience and probably the money to hold them accountable in a civil rights lawsuit. So they're going to do whatever they want to do, whatever they think is best for protecting children.
And by the way, Mr. Davis, she texted me, the person you're talking about, last night at 10:45 p.m. And she said she still doesn't have her kids back. Now they have new allegations against her. She doesn't know where that came from. And I really don't like it's really sad. However, she's now learning that the social worker was trying to keep her away from hiring an attorney so they will never give her kids back.
I used to many years ago become very upset about those things. I don't anymore.
I do. I get upset. I actually do get upset.
Because let me tell you why. People are going to do what they want to do. I can only take you to the water. I can't make you drink.
That's true.
And if you don't drink, there's nothing I can do. I can't go home and lose sleep about it. I've got other people to help. I got a personal life. I got a family. I got a child. I'm about to be a grandfather. And if you don't want to follow my advice, okay, I get it. Good luck to you.
It's very unfortunate. And I try to tell people, and I hope to God they do listen, that the longer you wait, CPS workers, DCFS workers work really fast. And they're 10 steps or 20 steps ahead of you. I used to think 5 steps, 3 steps. But then the more I work for Davis and the more that I talk to people, they're actually 20 steps or more ahead of you. They know what they're going to do the minute they call you or show up on your door. They already know what they're going to do to your children.
Right. This is their job. They do it every day,
Yep.
every week, every month, every year. They know what they're doing. You believe, as a parent, that somehow justice and righteousness is going to win out. You have no idea what you're gotten yourself into. In that trailer of the movie, one of the first attorneys talking is me. You don't see my picture when I say this, but I say something like, you're involved in a legal process and that you know nothing about. And basically, if you don't get the right assistance and representation, you are going to be chewed up and spit out. Those are the words I used in that movie. And that is what's going to happen. There is someone who's posting comments on one of the social media platforms. And I'm not going to mention her name, but she could tell you about one of the worst corruption cases in CPS I've ever heard of. And that's saying a lot. That's saying a lot. So don't ever think that social workers are always going to do the right thing. We pray, we hope that they are going to do it. But there's many factors and forces that are going along here that people, just don't know about. Okay, what is the next question you have?
Oftentimes people ask me this, Vincent. when your court-appointed attorney in bullies you or forces you to admit that you're guilty to something you haven't done to get your children back, when they tell their court-appointed attorney they're not going to admit to that, and then he or she tells them you're going to lose your kids, but then some people that admit to it, they lose their kids anyways. So the question is, should they or should they not, especially if they haven't committed a crime?
Well, whether it's a crime or not a crime, it doesn't
Right.
matter, because you can lose your kids for not committing a crime.
Right.
But that's a hard question to ask,
Mhm.
to answer, because I don't know all of the facts that are going on in the case.
Mhm.
And it would be irresponsible for me as a lawyer, licensed here in California, to tell you never follow the advice of a court-appointed attorney who tells you that.
Mhm.
Okay, that'd be irresponsible of me. My general advice to people, and this is just general, if it's not true, don't say it's true, because you're just lying to yourself and to the judge.
Mhm.
That's my general. Now, do I ever sway from that? I have. But, each case is so different. The attorneys, the judges, the social workers, the parents, everybody's so different. They come along with a different story and a different factual background. So it's hard.
Right.
And with different evidence, of course. All right, what's your next question?
Oftentimes people ask me this: why don't CPS focus on the kids that are really in abusive homes, but yet they see kids in abusive homes stay with the parents, but yet the ones who are not abused, they're focused on that one. So oftentimes they're looking at it as what the changes. We keep coming back to the changes. Every show is the same thing. To make a change, you have to vote. You have to vote. You have to vote. So people say you said that vote for family-oriented individuals, but then the head of CPS last year that had to step down from his role because he was caught taking bribes and money over removing children, and he was also a family-oriented man. So it's kind of like, how do you really know you're voting for the right one? Because some family oriented people, they still lie and steal children from other people.
You don't. That's our system. You don't. I don't care who you voted for in the last presidential election. You never know if you're voting for the right person. You never know. People that voted for Trump, I know a lot of people that voted for Trump that are sorry they voted for him. I know a lot of people that voted for Biden who are sorry they voted for Biden.
Mhm.
You never know. That's just our system. You have to do your research, think independently, and make a decision. But let me tell you something, because I was talking to someone about this recently. The key is changing laws to give parents more rights in the juvenile dependency and CPS system. And they can do that, at least in California, by referendum propositions. They could do it by putting people, assemblymen and state senators into office, that could really make a difference. Because there are some politicians out there that do want to change the system as we know it. Here's the problem I see, and this has become more and more crystallized to me. For the most part, we don't work together. We don't. And the reason, because I think that happens, is number one, personalities, and number two, money. Not too long ago, someone called me up and told me they were going to hire me initially,
Mhm.
but another person who wasn't even a lawyer but was just an advocate told them that I was the worst attorney in the world
Mm-hmm.
and that I didn't know what I was doing. Now, you can say a lot of things about me that are probably true, but you can't say I don't know what I'm doing in a CPS case. I do know what I'm doing. And that person ended up losing their child through adoption because they followed what a non-attorney said. I didn't know what to say. So we are making comments about each other. What we should be doing is we should be banding together and supporting each other. Do you know how many millions of people are affected by CPS? What if they all decided to band together and vote to change laws? They'd be changed. But they're not going to band together. And I think the system and politicians, they're happy about that because the populace can never get together to work as one tool to change the system. There's too many factions and fractions. You see that all the time. And it's something about social engineering and social groups. Dissension just happens. If it didn't happen, people would be unstoppable at the ballot box.
You know, Davis, a lot of people don't understand that there is people who say that supposed to be child advocates out there on social media. So be careful who you speak with, who say that they're sitting attorneys, and they're not even attorneys. Sitting attorneys, and they will send a paper to the judge and turn your case around, that the paper from their show, and to be able to turn their case around. Be careful with people like that. If they're sitting attorneys and they tell you that they're traveling the world or the states to make changes, that's BS. You have to know who you're speaking with. You have to be very careful who you speak with, because a letter from a person that does a show is not going to save or overturn your case. And she encourages people to donate to her show, so you need to be very careful with that as well. It took Mr. Davis 35 years of experience to understand what he's doing. And person that gives you advice, oftentimes I found out that this person goes to watch Davis's shows, takes the advice that Davis gives on his shows and gives it to the people, making herself look like she is really a sitting attorney. So you have to be very careful with that. Also, some of you guys that say that Mr. Davis's retainer is high for an average person, it's really not. Because I have called several attorneys in the Los Angeles County alone, and their retainers are way too much. Oftentimes, people go to look for the cheapest retainer, which is a family law attorney that never fought a CPS case, doesn't know anything about a CPS case, but then oftentimes they'll take a small retainer. This is not about a small retainer. This is about getting your kids back. We have clients that actually lived with their family in the same home where they were supported until they saved up and kept doing what they needed to do to get their kids back. And then once they got their kids back, they got back on their own feet again. So the amount of work that is required to do a case alone is a lot, especially when you guys come to us when it's towards the end of your case, when everything on your case is so messed up that you want another attorney to save it and to overturn it. And they don't even know what's on your case. They haven't seen your file. They don't know anything. But people expect attorneys to work for free. If you guys are willing to work for free and not pay your mortgage or your rent or your car note or your bills, then you can say that you expect another attorney, an attorney to do that. Court-appointed attorneys are free for you, but they get paid by the county. They're not free. They themselves do not work free cases. So you guys need to understand that, and I hope you do, because I sure would not work for free. I volunteer my time to shelters. I told you guys this before, but I cannot volunteer every day, 16 hours a day. But I can do what I can. So this is just something for you guys to think about. Ashley said, "Can you ask for a hearing if your TPR is your next court date?"
Can you ask for a hearing?
If your TPR is for if your TPR is your next court date.
Okay, Ashley, here's the deal. Assuming you're in California, if your next court date is a TPR, termination of parental rights, you have a right to set that for a trial. Now, some judges do it differently. Some judges will let you show up and pick a trial date. Other judges expect you, if you are going to challenge it, to be ready to have a trial on that hearing date. You have to find out what your judge or how your judge does it. You can do that by talking to your attorney. You can do that by calling the court clerk. Okay? But you are entitled to a hearing, a trial of a termination of your parental rights. Now, assuming that you're in California, you need to read Welfare and Institutions Code, section 366.26, because it will tell you what the social worker has to prove and what you have to prove as a defense to stop the termination of your parental rights. It's a very narrow area of the law, all right? And one of the things you can't do is go back to the first hearing or the second hearing or the third hearing and say, oh, all that was wrong, judge. That's going to be a waste of your time. So this is what I tell people. CPS cases are usually, there's 6 different steps, 6 different modules. Each of those modules exist by themselves, all right? So if you come to me in module 5 or 6 and you want to fight module 1 or 2, you're wasting your time. It can't be done. And I know you want to tell me the story about module 1 and 2, and that's fine, but it means nothing or very little to what's going to happen in module 6, right? Now, are there other things that you can do? Possibly. But if you're in module 6, you better focus on module 6. Johnny Gonzalez is asking, can you file 388 in juvenile court after parental rights have been terminated and appeal is pending? If you're in California, the answer is yes. Yes, you can. But Johnny, let me tell you something. And I hope you understand this. You get this. Knowing the law in filing a 388 means nothing. Means nothing. What you have to do is you have to present the evidence to support your 388. Now, that's the golden question. Well, what does that mean? Talk to your lawyer about it. That's not an easy question to answer, and it's going to take your lawyer and you to discuss it, review your case file, and to figure that out. It's not the same for every parent. Okay, but you ask the question, can you do this? Yeah, you can do it. Can I go down to 7-Eleven and buy a bottle of Coke? Yeah, I can do it. But that doesn't mean anything. All right? So let's just not focus on the law. The law means something, but it doesn't mean what you think it means. What the most important thing in any case is the presentation of relevant admissible evidence to support your position in any of the statutory hearings. Like I just answered that last question about the 2-6.
Okay, so Mr. Davis, why? I'm not going to say why. I should ask you differently. In some cases that you encountered in your career, when a parent doesn't, I'm trying to word it different because I know you. When a parent is not allowed in the courtroom till the last hearing, what are the circumstances that will stop a parent from being in that courtroom? Because I've heard that from so many people. I've never been to the hearings. I've only been to one, and their kids are being adopted. I'm like, what? That they would
Well,
tell
I
me
mean,
they're not allowed.
there are a lot of things that could stop a parent from being in the courtroom, and that's an unfortunate thing, right?
Mhm.
But what if the parent is boisterous and disrupting the court proceedings? What if the parent is cussing the judge out? What if the parent is making threats? The judge, and if you were the judge, you'd
Mhm.
have that person removed from your courtroom. You can't, no matter what's going on in the court hearing, you can't go in the courtroom and just do anything you want. There's a certain decorum, right? There's a certain things you can do and not do. So,
But what if you haven't done anything? What if you're a calm individual that actually is not causing problems, and they don't allow you to go to the courtroom till the last hearing, and you have no idea what was going on, and they keep making doing hearings without you being there?
okay, so have I ever heard those stories? Yes. And I'll tell you exactly what I tell those people. If that's true, you need to be filing a federal civil rights case to stop the proceeding because your rights have been violated.
Good.
Okay?
I hope you guys are listening to this. This is really important advice right there. Go on, Mr.
Yeah.
Davis.
Now, here's what happens in a lot of cases. And I'm not saying this happens to Ashley because she's asking that question. Sometimes people tell me, oh, I was a perfect lady, gentleman in court. I never did anything. And then you get into the record and you come to find out, well, that wasn't exactly true, right? But I don't know. I'm telling you right now, if you weren't allowed in the courtroom until the last hearing, you need to be talking to a civil rights attorney to file some type of lawsuit and injunctive relief to stop all the proceedings because your rights are being violated.
Okay.
Here's 3D. I thank you endlessly for helping those in need. You guys are real superheroes. Many across the county don't live in California or country, don't live in California, and there is not enough of you to go around. Well, 3D, I want to thank you for that compliment. We're trying to do as best we can. There's 24 hours in a day, 7 days a week. We're going to try to help. Try to, because I know it's a passion of Georgette's, Miss G, because she went through this system and was effed over, right? So she definitely has a passion.
I do.
So,
I do have a great deal of passion for everyone. I actually have a prayer group every week, Mr. Davis, and I take everybody's names down, and it's very big now. I have over 300 people on my group list.
wow.
Yeah.
Now, are these CPS parents and stuff?
Yeah, they're all
Okay.
CPS cases. Yeah, and
I didn't know that.
yeah, well, I did it as just something that I do every week after work, of course, sir. Not doing my work hours.
Is it like on Zoom or something?
We we have like connection through Zoom calls, and sometimes we do FaceTime with each other, especially if they have iPhones. And then it's growing really, really fast, and I'm loving it. I really am loving it.
Very good. Now, let's get back to the questions you were asking me about the book.
Right. So we discussed the hearing situation, Now, when it comes to finding a civil rights attorney, such as yourself in Florida, do you have any connection with civil attorneys in Florida, or can you handle civil cases in Florida as well?
Okay.
That's a
I don't.
question that was sent to me on my phone, by the way.
I do not have any connections in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've only been to Florida a couple of times,
Mm-hmm.
Disney World and Florida Keys, vacation stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think I went to Jacksonville one time for a seminar, but I don't have any lawyer connections there. I'm sorry. If you're looking for a lawyer in Florida, I would try the local county bar associations. All right.
Mm-hmm.
I would try Google. Google knows all. And if you want to know if I can handle a case in Florida, the answer is yes. If the Florida bar grants me pro hac vice status, permission to do a case in Florida, even though I'm licensed in California. Okay.
All right. Now, have you, Mr. Davis, done any cases in Oregon, out of state, such as civil cases and juvenile dependency cases?
Yes, I have a case right now in Greensboro, North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I did a case in Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like a year or so ago.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of all this. I've done a case in Las Vegas, Nevada. So yeah, I've done cases outside where the court grants me pro hac vice status, and I'm able to appear.
Okay. Now, can you explain to the people what is a pro hac vice status, so they can
Yeah,
understand, for out of state, that is?
it just means that you're not a licensed attorney in that state,
Mm-hmm.
and you ask that state to give you permission to go practice or do a case in that state. For example, I'm not licensed in North Carolina, but I'm doing a CPS case in North Carolina because I asked that state to give me special permission.
And how long
And,
does that take, sir?
some states are during COVID, it was really backed up, so.
Well, there was
it
a
could
case that I signed up for our office, and it took us, I think, around 3 months at one point,
yeah. During,
or 2 months during COVID. Yeah.
yeah, it takes sometimes a long time. Sometimes, they don't have the people that they used to have. Everybody was working from home, and, it just took a long time.
Right. Okay. But the normal process, that is how long usually?
It's different from state to state.
Got it.
That's one of those trick questions you ask me. There's, in this case, 52 different answers.
Okay. So I get scared asking you questions because you always have something else to tell me how I'm doing it wrong. No, but seriously, when it comes to your first trial in court, oftentimes people say that the court-appointed attorneys do not handle trials, but
Not
they
what?
do not handle trials. Basically, I'm sorry, not trials, appeals. If they want to appeal, the parent wants to appeal, then they tell them, we can submit the appeal, but we can't handle the appeal for you. Is that true, sir, or they can handle the appeal, but they don't want to handle the appeal?
Well, whether they can handle it or not, that just is different from attorney to attorney. Generally, court-appointed attorneys don't do appeals. That's not within their scope. So you have to get another attorney or ask the Court of Appeal to give you a court-appointed attorney. I do know, though.
Wait,
I do know.
really?
Hold on.
Okay. Sorry.
I do know that there's a special type of appeal called a writ in juvenile dependency when your family reunification services are terminated, and it is the trial attorney's responsibility to do that for you. Okay, So it depends on what type of appeal it is. But generally, court-appointed attorneys who represent you in the trial court do not do your appeal, and you have to get another attorney, either court-appointed or hire your own. Tiffany is asking me on Facebook, are you licensed in Indiana? The answer is no, Tiffany, I am not licensed in Indiana. I could maybe do a case there under Pro Hoc Vice status. So if you want to talk about that, you can call me or Georgette at 888-888-6582. Hey, Georgette, I got to wrap this up for today. Maybe we can do it tomorrow, Monday, whatever. We can continue it. But do you have one last question?
I do have one last question. Is it wise for someone to do their own trial by themselves?
Absolutely not.
Even with an advocate that supposedly knows what they're doing, which, whatever.
I don't know what you're trying to say, but
like
look,
there's an advocate, a group.
Hold on a second. Hold on.
Mhm.
If you're a parent and you're not a lawyer, and you're working with someone that's not a lawyer, if you try to do the trial yourself, it is legal suicide. Period. End of story. All right. So there's nothing else to discuss about that. Okay. If you want to do it, don't listen to me. I won't be upset. All right. Go ahead and do it, and let me know how it turns out.
I want to know how it turns out. They know who I'm talking to right now.
And if you win your case without your lawyer being a lawyer, you need to call me immediately so we can put you on this screen, and so you can tell the rest of the thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of people in this country how you do it, how you did it. And I'll be the first one to welcome you on the show.
Yep, I would too. Believe me.
I've said this before, and I'll say this before I leave. Has a person ever represented themselves in one? Yes. Yes, that has happened. But it's like 1 out of 1,000. All right. And if you want to play those odds with your children, okay, that's your decision. I know you wouldn't play those odds in Vegas, or maybe you would. I don't know. Maybe you would, right? Maybe you're a gambler. But for me, being a parent, I don't think I would want to gamble with my kids.
Nope.
Right? I would want to take the best percentage play I could take.
Okay, right. Can you answer this question before you go, sir, please?
What if it was an exit order / termination of court supervision and your attorney weren't present? That's a problem because you're supposed to have notice of every hearing that happens. You could, if you're in California, for sure you could make a motion to throw that out and reset it and to have a hearing so that you can be present. And maybe you want to be present because you don't like the exit order and you want to present evidence that visitation and custody should be different than what it was actually, ordered in the court.
Okay, one last question, I promise. For Johnny. One last one.
Okay, Johnny says, I have the juvenile procedure practice currently. I don't know what that means. Which book or study material do you recommend for someone to learn how to conduct in juvenile dependency? Okay, so Johnny, I can answer that question. And I should probably get an Amazon link that I can make a small commission on referring people to certain books. Johnny, the first book that if you're assuming that you're a parent, I would get is the California Evidence Code. You might say, well, what does it have to do with juvenile dependency? It has everything to do with it. You can only win cases with evidence. The second book I would recommend is Continuing Education of the Bar, their multi-volume juvenile dependency practice guide. In my opinion, it's excellent. The third book, which is also excellent, but it's at a kind of a higher level, is something called Gary Sizer. He's a former county counsel, social worker attorney, and he's an expert in the area of juvenile dependency law. He writes a book on juvenile dependency, and I think it's published through LexisNexis, and I think it's called Juvenile Dependency or Sizer on Juvenile Dependency, something like that. But Google it, you'll find it. It's like $400. There's one other book that you can actually get for free online, and it's called the Dog Book or the Red Dog Book or something like that on juvenile dependency. And it was written for young lawyers new to juvenile dependency to get a feel for the different types of hearings. That's an excellent book as well, Johnny, especially for a quick reference. But those are the four things that I would focus on. But have you ever heard this saying, Johnny? It will take you, let's say, 40 hours to read all of that. It'll take you a lifetime to master.
Yeah, it does. It's a lot of work. Okay, Stacy has a question.
Did I mention I had to go?
I know, but this is the last one. How long after physical custody is returned do you get your case dismissed?
Okay. There are 100 different answers to that question. Could be a day, could be 6 months, could be a year, could be 2 years. And see, this is how people ask me the wrong question. She shouldn't be asking me how long. She should be asking me, how do I get my case closed after I get my custody back? Yep. That's a different question. And the answer to that question is a little bit complex. Stacy, if you want to know the answer to that question, you call me, or call Georgette, make an appointment, and I'll tell you. Free consultation.
Yeah.
Okay, Stacy?
That's
not how long. That's the wrong question. It's not how long. It's how do you get it closed after you get custody back? Yep. And that's a little bit more complex.
Yep.
Georgette, do you see how I'm saying that she's asking me the wrong question?
Yep, I do.
Okay.
It makes me reflect on myself when I ask you questions. When I ask you the wrong questions.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Everyone, I want to thank you for watching and listening. If you have further questions, call me or Georgette at 888-888-6582. Check me out on YouTube. I think it's called CPS Defense Strategy, or something like that. I have a YouTube channel. It has hundreds of videos, not just these shows that we do live stream, but it also has instructional videos. And wanted to let you know, Georgette, something that you don't know. I've put out a CPS course online. You could find it at Teachable. I don't know if you've heard of teachable.com. It's a site where they have all types of online lesson seminars you can take. And I'm about to launch an online course, how to do a civil rights case against a social worker. That's been a long time coming. It's going to be several weeks long, and I'll be announcing when the first video is coming out. So watch out for that as well.
Oh my God, this is so exciting. Okay, got it.
All right, Georgette. So let me know when you want to do the other show. I know you and the other hosts do shows throughout the week.
Yeah.
And I think in this week, I'm going to start trying to come on more and more and more. Oh, there's one other thing. I'm moving my radio show from KABC to Blog Talk Radio.
What is it?
to Blog Talk Radio.
Blog Talk Radio.
And
Okay.
in 2017 or 18, my radio show started on Blog Talk Radio.
Okay.
So I'm returning back home to Blog Talk Radio for the show. More will be coming out about that later. All right?
Also, I would like people to know that Mr. Davis and I talked about doing a family law custody show as well, right, Mr. Davis?
Oh, yeah. That's totally different thing. Yeah. A divorce and custody show.
Mm-hmm.
So,
That's
yeah,
right.
you know what? We might as well just, and Grace, I hope you're listening, our producer, Grace. Let's just do that this week. Let's start it off this week.
Yes.
Georgia, you probably don't know this, but I just published a book. It just got released. It's How to Do Your Own Divorce.
What do I work for you, or what's happening here?
You know, I've been a busy little bee.
How to file your own divorce?
How to do your own divorce.
How to do your own divorce.
Okay, but I definitely have to go. We're past the 1 hour mark. Good night, everyone. Have a great weekend. Talk to you later.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Bye-bye.